Welcome to Sold Sistas podcast. I'm your girl Latrice,
I'm Future.
and today we have a special guest.
Tiffany Williams of Imperative Home Solutions.
And today we are going to give you all the gems that you have been looking for. If you want to know about how to prepare your home as a seller for a home inspection, if you want to know what you're looking for as a buyer, if you're a realtor that wants to know how to prepare your clients when they are getting ready to place an offer, if the home is in good shape or not, we're going to go ahead and answer all those questions today. So we're going to go ahead and start with Tiffany. Just go ahead and introduce yourself, tell the people who you are and why you got into home inspection.
Well, my name's Tiffany Williams. I used to be an agent 19, 20 years ago.
I love when she say that.
And at that time, the market wasn't very good, but also there wasn't very much tutelage for new agents. And it was a bit difficult. So I had to go get a job. And I worked that for many years, and I wanted to get back into real estate. And I stumbled across home inspections. My first property was given to me, so I never had a home inspection. But I did have water in my basement. So eventually I became a home inspector and realized why I had that issue. But ever since then, it's just been taking off for me. And I pretty much love it. Love doing this every day.
How long have you been doing home inspections, Tiffany? Can you repeat that, please?
So I've been doing it for 6.5 years now.
Okay.
And I've been a member of my association for 5 years now.
Okay, so association, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So just like you guys have associations as realtors, home inspectors have associations. So here in Michigan, there are no requirements to become a home inspector. You can wake up and say, I'm a home inspector.
Tragic.
True. But I actually went ahead and got certified through a different school. And with that education, I just didn't feel comfortable or confident enough. I was instructed by another home inspector to join Internachi, which is my current association. And the training that you receive through an association is immaculate. It basically helps you in so many different ways that you never would have gotten help if you never would have joined that particular association. So I highly recommend Internachi for anyone who wants to get into home inspecting.
Girl, you better get an affiliate code.
Okay, Latrice is all about an affiliate code.
Yes, I'm here for all affiliate codes. So you would say that joining an association has been a game changer, or would you say that it helps separates you from other home inspectors?
I would say both. It's a game changer because it gives you the knowledge that you need, but it definitely separates you from other inspectors because if you're not pouring into yourself, who is?
Okay.
So pour into yourself, invest in that $50 a month or whatever the cost is, because at the end of the day, you should see yourself as being worth it, and you should definitely want it.
Okay, this is already starting off so good and juicy. I don't even know if y'all are ready for all the nuggets that are going to be dropped in this episode. We're just getting started. Okay, so next topic, we're going to just jump right into common myths about home inspection. So basically, you know how some people say, oh, it's a new home, I don't need an inspection, or, oh, I've been through this a couple of times, I don't need an inspection. Like, what are some myths about that? Like, can you debunk some of these things that I hear clients say?
Whether it's a new build or a remodeled home, I highly recommend getting an inspection. To be honest, when you walk through a property, even agents do it, walk through a property and they have blinders on. Certain things, go unseen. And the reason you want to get the inspection is because that one person is trained to see the things that you might not want to see, or you just might overlook. There's been several new builds and several remodeled homes that I've inspected and found major leaks or major issues that would have cost the client thousands of dollars in the future.
That makes sense. So another question. So I've had clients tell me this too. Oh, I've paid for they may have had 3 homes that they had an offer get accepted on. I've gotten 3 offers accepted and I've been to each one of those inspections. I think I got it figured out by now. Like, they don't need a home inspection for this house because I already know what to look for. Tiffany already showed me to look at the joists and to look at this and look at that. We're good. What do you have to say to those people?
So before, when I was not with an association, I took a course. It was a pretty intense course. They gave a lot of training, and it was a book of a few hundred pages, and that was the end of the course. That does not mean I knew what I needed to know. Things are broken down differently depending on who is giving the information, and not necessarily everyone will understand that information when it's given a certain way. Just because you ran into one issue at one house doesn't mean you're going to have that same issue at a different house. So to be honest, think of your home inspector like your PCP. You go to your doctor, your PCP, and you say, hey,
Make sure you let them know what PCP is.
your primary care physician. You go to your primary care physician and you're like, hey, I have really bad headaches. The primary care physician isn't going to diagnose what's going on with you. They're going to refer you out to someone else. That person that they refer you out to is a specialist, and they specialize in exactly what the issue is. So just because you had one issue at one place doesn't mean it's going to be the same issue at a different place.
Okay, so now the fun times or fun story. You know, I love good story time.
You love story
I
time.
love story time. So we need a good story. We need, like, what's the strangest thing or things you've seen at a home inspection? I know you've seen some crazy stuff because I follow you on TikTok, and I just be like, what? Oh, actually, and tell the people where they can find you on TikTok too.
Oh, TikTok, The Inspector, TheeinSpector at TikTok, on TikTok. And I believe I'm Imperative Home Solutions on Facebook as well as Instagram. As far as a story, I think the most confusing things to me when I do an inspection would probably be nests in the attic, especially when someone is actually living in the house. I've seen many condos with apartment complexes and all kinds of elaborate nests set up in the attic. If there's a tenant or there's a homeowner in the property at the time, but I hear really loud bumps in the night. So what's going on? So when I get into the attic, it's usually a condo or an apartment complex of, it can be squirrels, it can be mice, it can be in pretty much anything get into your attic. But on the outside of the home, there's wide openings where animals could get into, and nobody pays attention to those areas. So I think the strangest thing is not closing up those areas for me and then wondering what's going on the inside of the attic.
I sell anywhere that makes sense. So I sold a house out in Gregory, Michigan. So, past Pinckney, out in Gregory, Michigan. And that was like an issue for the homeowner at the time. I was working with the buyer. And when we got the inspection done, they had a bat infestation. And the seller initially tried to play it like it wasn't a big deal. My client had just had a baby who was going through different procedures. And she's like, I cannot bring my child in this home because of the bat, poop. Like, it can make the child sick. And that was like the strangest thing to me. And since that incident, there have been at least 3 other incidents where either I or somebody on my team have dealt with a bat infestation. How are those I just have to ask, like, how are those situations handled?
To be honest, you get referred out to a pest specialist, and they come trap and remove them. And then you want to seal up that area to prevent them from coming back. Because a lot of times, especially like raccoons are the loudest, and they will pretty much destroy whatever they feel like destroying. And they'll just shut up shop. They don't have to pay rent. So just move in.
Or a mortgage.
Right.
Yeah, I've had a couple of clients tell me about bats. Like, how like you ask somebody, like, what's your why? Why do you want to become a homeowner?
Right.
Why do you want to move? And she was just like, I'm tired of seeing bat piss on the ceilings.
That is so crazy.
I have to get out of here. And these are places they're renting. And the landlord or the owner is just
ignoring it.
Like, whatever, I'm not staying there.
How do you handle clients who are upset after an inspection? So for those of you who do not know, after someone closes on the house, if something goes wrong, if you have a client that's knowledgeable, they'll just do what's necessary. But a lot of times this is your client's first home, and the first thing that they do is call the agent and blame the agent and or the inspector. It's just a reality. Mm-hmm. How do you handle those type of situations?
Well, first, let's go over the report. What did you see in the report? I usually let my clients know before the end of the inspection. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know now. Once you get the report, don't panic. If you see something that you're concerned about, reach out to me, let me know. Me personally, I would prefer them call me before they call you, because I'm the one who did the inspection.
Can you tell them that?
Yeah, I tell them that. I tell
Y'all
them.
can call me too. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you can absolutely call. I like when clients call. And honestly, I like to be able to teach a client what's going on. So I really do prefer for them to be at the inspection. That way, once I finish, I can walk around and go through everything and point out whatever is going to be in the report before it's actually in the report. So it's not a shocker when they see it.
Can you explain, like, I guess the purpose or the main takeaways from a home inspection? Because one thing I have been running into is people that do renovations for their home and they're like, the inspector didn't catch this or they didn't catch that. And it's just like, you ripped out walls. No
Literally,
way for
like,
them to see that.
how could the inspector see that? They're like, well, we're getting the laundry room redone, and they said it was a fire in there behind the wall. And I'm looking around like, the inspector should have. How can the inspector catch that? Like, some
there's a
stuff is a
tracker
matter
for
of
that.
just like, if you slow down and think, like, that doesn't even make sense.
So, first and foremost, before the inspection takes place, there is always an agreement that you have to sign. And for the most part, most of the agreements say that this is a visual inspection. So, a lot of the things that, as a basic home inspector, you won't see, because when you first start, they say you need a screwdriver and a flashlight. A screwdriver and a flashlight can only do so much. For the most part, you want to go with an inspector who has a little bit more experience, who has a bit more tools. I use infrared imaging. That wouldn't catch a fire unless, like, the electrical panel or something like that was overheating. We can catch something like that, but again, like you said, we don't have X-ray vision, but we do use specialized tools to help find certain issues. Also, wouldn't that be covered in the disclosure if there was a fire?
If they disclose it.
If they disclose it, but it was a rental it was a beautiful home, higher price home, but it was a rental property. So, their response is, the tenant didn't tell us.
Right.
We didn't know that there was a fire.
But at the time when they did their walk through or inspection, did they see any signs of fire? I'm gonna say no.
No, they didn't.
Right, because it wouldn't be a concern at the time. Yeah.
And it's not always easy to identify if the house has had fire. I had a client, a cash investor or cash buyer, buying a property, and we were getting ready to close. And the day of closing, they tried to get an insurance policy, and they shopped with multiple insurance agents. And the third insurance agent that they called said, oh, this house just had a policy payout for like 200,000+ for a fire. None of the other insurance agents, nobody else caught it. And they were like, oh, well, they're hiding things. They were an investor buying a house and just flipping it. They didn't know, or if they did, they didn't disclose it on the seller's disclosure. But there's really no way to know. If somebody's completely renovated a property, it's very difficult to be able to identify that it's been in a fire.
Yeah, especially, new drywall, new paint.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so now this is a good question. Have you ever encountered a situation where a buyer backed out due to an inspection, and what happened? I know that has to be something that grinds your gears.
How do the agents respond?
Right,
That's a real question. That's the real
let's
tea.
get to this question first.
Okay, go
this
ahead.
one first, the buyer first, and then we'll get to the agents.
Okay. Yes, I have actually had clients stop me. I usually, before I start going over everything, I usually ask the client, is there anything in particular that you have a question or concern about? And we'll go to whatever the area is and we'll talk about it. And I'll tell them how it got that way, what would need to be done to do the repair. And most of the time, this is usually with foundation issues, heavy foundation cracking in the basement, things like that, wood rot, things like that. So I have had a lot of clients say, okay, well, you know what? This is not something I'm equipped to deal with, and I don't want to go forward. So, I mean, I do give them that option and try to save them some money in regards to paying for 5-6 inspections on different properties. Usually the agents are okay, especially if the agent was there at the time and they can see what it was that we were talking about. I don't think I've really had any agents too upset.
Have you ever had an agent wild out on you about? Because sometimes them agents
About
need their
killing
money.
the deal.
Sometimes them agents need their money and they need it now.
It's my money and I want it now.
So I had this one property I inspected 3 times. The first time I inspected it, it was water in the basement, 2-inch worth of structural movement in the walls, and a
That sounds
1.5 inch crack, horizontal crack in the wall as well. And I told the client, I said, hey, this can be expensive. I think you should get a waterproofing company out here. I think you need a foundation repair specialist out here to look at it. Oh, my brother does that work. I'm like, okay, well, call him and have him come. His brother actually showed up during the inspection, and his brother told him this is $10,000 on the inside. But from what I saw on the outside, we might need to excavate the yard as well. And we have to remove your porch as well. And that starts at $12,000. And he walked away from the deal. I got a call maybe within a week to inspect that same house. And I let the client know, hey, I was just out here. I will do the inspection for you, but I do have to let you know what I saw when I was there.
Right.
He still wanted it inspected, still got it inspected. Same result, walked away from the deal. But that agent, the listing agent, was upset with me, not the client's agent. Listing agent, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She has no idea what she's doing. Not knowing that the first time I inspected the property, the foundation specialist was there. The foundation specialist let them know how much it would cost.
Right.
And gave them the estimate. So she didn't update the listing. I came back out a third time. And
this house was a hot,
was it a nice house?
Property.
It was in Harper Woods. It was average. It wasn't.
Was it priced well? Because what was going on?
It needed remodeling. It needed some updates.
But it needed some.
It was in Macomb, or no, that's not Macomb County, is
that's
it?
Wayne.
Harper Woods.
No, it's Wayne County.
Harper Woods is Wayne County.
Okay, so but still, like near East Point, near everybody wants to be in. I want to be in Roseville, Harper Woods.
But the crazy part about this particular property, I'm going to assume it was the seller. They bolted metal racks, like shelves, onto the wall that had the horizontal cracking, and I assume they did that to prevent further moving, but it wasn't going to work.
Right.
Now they're trying to keep the house
together.
They was duct taping the house.
Yeah,
they duct taped the house.
That is like the epitome of putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Yes.
Like what?
We just gonna hope it don't move.
Well, I mean, I came in, I was moving the shelf. I was like, this gonna move.
Okay, so what are the most critical areas of a home that a buyer should be concerned about?
So me personally, I go for the big ticket items. If I'm looking for a property, the first thing I'm going to look at is foundation. Not every single crack in a foundation is a major foundation issue. So having a better understanding about that would be number one for me. The next would probably be the roof, which can be repaired. It just depends on if you're willing to spend the money to repair it.
Hey, what happened with that deal with the young lady on my team and the roof needs some patchwork?
Which one? All of them need patchwork.
It's one in like Roseville or on the east side, and it needs to be replaced actually. But she said that you said they may be able to patch it.
They may be able to, I think I know what you're talking about. They may be able to patch it. But again, you have to keep in mind, if you patch it, how long is that going to last?
Right.
So that's what it really boils down to. Because like you could put a Band-Aid on it, but I mean, how long is the Band-Aid going to stay on?
Right.
So that's what it really is.
I got a whole bunch of Band-Aids getting ripped off at my house right now, and it's hurting.
I got some Band-Aids ripped off at my house. But the difference between you and I'm gonna be honest, like our sellers were pretty honest with us. We knew that the roof needed to be replaced. It had some life, it had some life, but not a lot of life. We pretty much knew.
My situation is completely different. So my house, an investor bought my house from an estate sale. So I didn't even find out until I was in my house a couple of years later. One of the neighbors told me that the homeowner died in the house, and the house had to be excavated. It was maggots everywhere. They had the whole block blocked off. And then the other guy who we bought it from, I guess, bought it and then claimed to have been an electrician and did some stuff, but that's a whole nother episode. And it's just like the longer we're there, the more it's like, we got another project. So
have you called your agent one time?
Not once.
Have you called the agent like, hey?
Like, it's your fault. You should have known 8 years later this was going to happen. It's going to rain.
My realtor.
Yeah, no,
I had
never.
somebody call me 2 years after her inspection. We had a lot of snow 2 years later, and the roof cracked from the weight of the snow. And she was upset. And I was like, well, I understand, you're upset. It's expected. But it's 2 years later. It wasn't an issue at the time.
Right.
So what would you like me to do? And there's really nothing I can do.
Yeah. That never even crossed my mind to call my agent like, it's raining in my house right now. It's your fault. Like I don't understand why. But I've had some clients tell me like after they've been in the house for a long time. Actually, only one. I've only had one client say, "Oh, it's water in my basement coming from upstairs," and I'm like, "Okay," but I'm solution focused. So I'm like, "Hey, call this person. I got a plug. You know, I got a resource for you.
Yeah,
So
I try to do that too.
let's get this fixed. It's no sense in us in here complaining about it. That's not gonna fix it. So
Well,
let's get to it."
I also get clients who call and say, "Hey, there's water in the basement." Well, let's open up your report and let's see what's in there. A lot of the times, it's something that's already listed in the report, and if you do this, that, and the third, you take care of it. It's fixed. I don't get called back after that.
Yeah, but the report is like so long, and so many people in this day and age, I feel like people don't even read what they're signing. They just click the sign. So
I agree.
I feel like a lot of it, you can be like, "Hey, it's an issue with the chimney. Oh, look at here. A year ago, I told you it was an issue. Look at that. It's in the report."
I had a lady, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I had a lady Tiffany did an inspection for. It was straight. Like it was the home was straight. It was nothing really majorly wrong with the house. She called me a year later with like minor things that were going on with the house and was like, she think Tiffany was in cahoots with the seller. And I'm like, Tiffany doesn't know the seller. So I just want y'all to know just for context, like what we deal with. Like, I'm like, Tiffany doesn't even know the seller. Like, it would benefit her none to be in cahoots with the seller.
So look, because we could go all day, because clearly we are not getting through these questions that the people want answers to. So let me get y'all back on track real quick. So you said most critical areas of the home, you said roof and then major ticket items, right?
Roof, foundation, and I always recommend a sewer inspection. You can't see what's going on without running that camera through there. I've gotten receipts back after agents have had the work done for their client during negotiations, $14,000 plus. You really want to get it taken care of. It might not look like the basement has flooded. That does not mean the basement has not flooded.
So I have a hard story, or difficult story, I should say, from a client that didn't get a sewer scope. So generally, just like with all of us in real estate, like you give your clients a list of vendors that you trust. Like, hey, you can call these people, and whoever you decide to go with, that's up to you, right? And my clients decided to go with someone, and they did not get a sewer scope. They wanted to save money on the home inspection, and they were in there for maybe a few months. And then I think that June we had that big crazy rain where like everybody in Metro Detroit was
up through the floor drain,
flooding, and the insurance covered I think some of it, but it was something where the line, like the issue wasn't on the city's end, but the plumbing wasn't connecting to the city line. So they ended up having to come up with like $10,000. Part of me is just like, they love this house. If we had got the sewer scope, would they still have gotten it, or would they have walked away and found something else? Or, and maybe I'll call them and ask them, like, in hindsight, like now that y'all spent the money, like, how do y'all feel about it? But it just made me very eager to tell all my clients, like, I know you're trying to save some coins, but you need to get that sewer scope. And even if you use a different inspector, you can still get a sewer scope from somebody else. Like,
well, think about it like this. You saved a couple $100 maybe on your sewer scope, and now you have to pay $10,000 because you didn't get the sewer scope.
Yeah, that happened to me. One of my investment properties, I did not get the sewer scope. I'm like, I've got a great deal on this property. After the house was remodeled, I get a tenant in there. That basement is giving, like, the plumbing is giving her issues. And she called me one day. This is when I got in my like woosah mindset where I wasn't just acting frantic about everything. But she calls and she's like, it's water in the basement. And I'm like, it's water in the basement. And I had spent like, I don't even want to say. I thought I was done renovating the house and I already spent like $7,000. So I get up and I run downstairs. This when we was over in Southfield. Then I'm like, Future, it's nothing you can do right now. You need to call a plumber. So I go back upstairs and I call a plumber. Long story short, we go into the house. It's water in the basement. I called a plumber. He said, I'll snake it. Snake it. Snake it. Snake it. He's like, I think that sewer line collapsed in the back. I'm like, you think so? He's like, yeah. He dug up that backyard. I have a picture. I'll show you the picture of my phone. it was no sewer line there. It was just dirt and like pieces of like metal,
pipe.
broken pipe.
So I have a situation. I did a sewer scope for a client and advised, because there was a blockage or something and I couldn't go all the way through, advised to have it snaked out and have it reevaluated. The seller decided to get a plumber out to snake it before her plumber could show up. So he snaked it. He told her it was good. It's all clear. She asked her agent, hey, should I still have Tiffany come back out and run that sewer scope again? And he's like, absolutely. I come back out, run the camera. The agent is there. She's on the phone with the client. And we're both looking at the screen. You can see the pipe that we're in. And then you see nothing. It's a worm on the side climbing up a root. And then you see the other part of the pipe.
Was that my house?
No, I don't think it was yours, but you see the other part of the pipe. And like I said, he was on the phone. He's like, no, the plumber was there. He went 100 feet out. I'm like, no, he put 100 feet in. He did not go 100 feet out. And you can't verify if they went 100 feet out without running the camera. And he didn't run the camera. So if the client wouldn't have had me come back out and run that camera, she would have bought the house. Come to find out, they had to dig up the neighbor's garage. He just had his concrete pad repoured and his garage rebuilt. They had to break that up to do the repair, but the city paid for a portion of it because a portion of the line from their side was broken or something too.
Right.
So the client only paid $7,000, but the city paid more. But it got taken care of.
That's crazy.
And the neighbor's garage had to get dug up?
Yep.
See, I told y'all this episode is just filled with gems. We ain't even got through half of the stuff. Okay. So now we're just going to go ahead and just jump right in with some rapid fire quick questions. Okay. So what are some signs of potential water damage that buyers should look for?
Mold in the basement, usually against the walls. You can see areas where the downspouts would be on the outside of the house. You're going to look in the inside. You usually would see like efflorescence, which is yellow staining. Indicates moisture is passing through. Cracking, foundation movement. Those would be the major things I would do.
Okay, and then how do you evaluate the electrical system in a home?
So part of my process when I go through the home, I check outlets in each room. I'm looking for properly wired outlets. But on the exterior, I'm checking the wiring, make sure there's no frayed wiring, making sure there are grounding wires and grounding rods, everything is connected. Looking for corrosion, any damage or anything that water would be able to get into and cause additional issues. Same thing once I get into the basement, or usually in the basement, to the electrical panel, I'm looking for corrosion. On the breakers, I'm looking for trip breakers that you want to know why those are tripped. Sometimes it's not advised to reset them because it might be a reason why they were tripped in the first place.
Right.
I prefer to see GFCI and AFCI breakers inside of the panels. It's not as well utilized as I would like it to be, but looking for things like that, things that will cause potential issues, loose wires in the panel, things like that.
Okay, so one of the other things, common issues you find during home inspections, I was just going to say, I feel like I've never seen a home inspection that didn't come back with any GFCI or grounding issues.
Always.
Or do you think that those are deal killers or like just typical for most inspections?
I don't think they're deal killers. I think sometimes when you switch over from 2-prong outlets to 3-prong outlets, people don't understand you have to have an additional wire, which creates that grounding aspect of a 3-prong outlet. Some flippers usually don't pay attention to code. So if you have 2-prong outlets, it's okay. It is up to code. But once you move into that property and you start plugging things in, it's going to be a little bit different for you. You might want to use one of those adapters, which doesn't necessarily mean, it'll work. It doesn't necessarily mean it's safe, because breakers and the wiring itself is only able to pull so much current. But once you start using adapters to change how much current is able to flow through, you cause potential issues then.
Would you say that the inspection process differs for a new build or a newer home versus an older home?
Older, depending on how old the house is. So, back in the day, we had knob and tube wiring. that's not going to work for us nowadays. So it depends on really how old the house is and what type of wiring.
Okay. And then buyers, what would you say they should focus on during a home inspection if you had to narrow it down?
I really wouldn't necessarily say focus on anything other than
What shouldn't they focus on? What shouldn't they be telling us that the deal is over for? So that's very aggressive.
You know what? I would put it in your price point. It depends
That's a
on
good answer.
what you're able to handle. The purpose of the inspection, and like I said, we refer you out to other people depending on what the issue is. You want to know how much it's going to cost. You want to know, is this a $500 fix or is this a $5,000 fix or a $50,000 fix?
Right.
So it's not necessarily, to me, a deal breaker could be a damaged foundation, but to an investor, I have the money to fix that right here and now. So it depends on you and what you're willing to take care of when you move into this property.
So what about sellers? Do you think that it's wise before you list your home to get a home inspection?
I do, to prevent you having several offers put in and several deals killed because the house is sitting there committing suicide. You guys call home inspectors deal killers, but the house is committing suicide.
That is good.
Have you ever had an inspection done before you list the property?
No, but I think it's smart, but people don't want to spend the money.
They don't want to spend money.
But I think it's smart. But I've had some clients say, I'll pay for an appraisal before I list my house. And I'm like,
it isn't going to do you any good.
It's not going to stand because you don't know who's going to be the person to buy it. And the lender's not going to use that appraisal. Right. And appraisals are subject to, but that's a whole nother episode. Anyways, how do you handle, well, no, we kind of talked about that. What are some red flags buyers should never ignore in a home inspection? Well, I guess you kind of answered that too with basically depend on their finances.
Right. Well, that too, but red flags for me would be a seller who doesn't want to allow you to have an inspection. Why?
Yeah.
I just had a client cancel because the seller did not want to give her time frame to get that inspection done. So she's walking away from the deal.
Okay, so do you have any tips that you would give to buyers, sellers, agents?
Read your report.
We don't want
the agent and the client. So because you working in the best interest of your client, read the report too. That's what I say.
Yeah, I dedicate time.
I always do.
With my clients, like we're just gonna sit here and read this long report together,
so we can make sure that we both have understanding and that you are asking, because when you do not, this is for agents who do not do this. Typically, when you do not read the report with your client, after you've already submitted the addendum, they'll come back with something else. And it's like, you can't do that. You have an inspection period. So you might as well go over the report with your client. So that way, you know that you have went over everything and addressed everything that they want addressed when you send an initial addendum.
Okay. All right. So any other jaw-dropping, crazy stories that you have had as far as experiences?
No, but touching on reading their report, I had a client who admittedly did not read her report, purchased a house. Her roof started leaking. I pointed out some issues going on the outside and on the inside of the attic space. And she admitted, hey, I didn't read the report. I didn't read the report because my agent said he was going to get back to me on it, and he never did. The agent is not buying the house, you are. Once that deal is done, you are responsible for what needs to be repaired. Again, reach out to me, ask me questions. I like that. And go from there.
How do you assess the condition of a roof during an inspection?
First, you're going to look at the condition of the shingles. If they're lifting and curling, more than likely needs to be replaced. A lot of patchwork, a lot of repair, a lot of sealants used, a lot of delamination. The number one areas that leak on a roof are going to be flashing areas, usually around chimneys or any penetrations in the roof. Those are prone to leakage. So it's not necessarily a whole roof replacement, but those areas can be repaired without doing that. And determining the age is usually based off of the granule loss of the shingles, but a lot of other factors play into that, like trees and weather and how much sunlight it gets and things like that. So it's a lot of things to add to it. But if you have a lot of defects on a roof, I generally would recommend replacement.
What are some of the red flags that buyers should never ignore during an inspection?
in my report's color coded. So anything in red, you definitely want to take care of. A lot of electrical things that are deemed minor to me, they're red because they could possibly start a fire. To me, they're minor because it's something I can repair or something that's low in budget far as repair goes. But majority of those red issues are usually health or safety issues.
Okay.
And then you had asked something about realtors and buyers or something. What was the question you had asked?
I can't remember that question, but I did want her to reiterate, clients being aware of what they are capable of getting fixed and what they're not capable of getting fixed.
Yeah, you asked what are deal breakers? That's something like
Right.
that. Well, deal breakers to me is anything that's not in my budget to be repaired.
Right.
Usually when you get a report, you're going to ask, well, how long do I have before the roof falls in? We can't typically tell you got 6 weeks. We don't know if the roof is going to fall in. We say it's a problem, something needs to be repaired. So you're referred out to someone to give you an estimate. When you get that estimate, what you're going to do is put it in your budget. How long will it take you to save $10,000 to get this repair done? Can you finance that repair? Things like that is really what I would be concerned with. And if I had to get it done right away, would I be able to get it done?
Okay. So really quickly, I wanted to reiterate this just because I feel like it comes up on every single inspection report. So this is kind of like would you rather a client's house have a GFCI issue versus or GFCI or a ground issue versus having flashing or elevation? Because I feel like I see those on like almost majority of the reports.
GFCI, most definitely.
They're both so easy to take care of.
Okay.
But
they're
can you explain that? Because I feel like a lot of people, I prepare my clients, but I don't know what other agents do. I prepare my clients like, hey, if your inspector doesn't find anything wrong with this house, then you didn't hire a good inspector. Like there's absolutely going to be something wrong with this house, regardless whether it's a new build, new construction, or a house built in the 1940s. There's going to be something wrong with it. That doesn't mean it's a deal breaker,
Right.
but it is what it is.
I probably would go with the GFCI. Well, see, the reason I wouldn't go with GFCI is because it could start a fire. You don't know when or if it will, but with the elevation or flashing issues, it could leak. It can both be fixed.
Right.
So basically, you're saying that all of those things that I mentioned can all be fixed. It's not necessarily a deal breaker. on the house.
Don't walk away from the house.
No, don't
Let's
walk
not
away.
let's not start again.
Don't walk away because
Let's
of
not
that.
start all control, all delete. Let's just elevation. Let's just put some dirt down. Let's just, it's,
Gutters, downspouts, and grading.
Right.
Just fix it.
That's it.
It's part of regular maintenance. And I think what I run into,
That's the T.
I think what I run into is a lot of people don't understand home maintenance and a lot of the stuff that goes into reports.
That
it is. A lot of the things that go into reports are home maintenance things. Gutters, downspouts, and grading is something that someone has ignored for a while. Now you have water in the basement. You fix it before you have foundation issues. If you have foundation issues already, you fix them and fix the outside cause of it. A lot of the times when foundation companies come out, they do the major repair, which is the $10,000 repair. And they don't say, hey, you might want to fix your gutters and downspouts and your grading on the outside. Because what happens over time is it goes right back to the same condition. So if you would have fixed the $20 issue outside, it would have spared you the $10,000 repair on the inside.
So like when people don't get their brakes fixed and then the rotors and everything else go bad, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so really quickly before we wrap this episode up, discuss the top things inspectors wish every buyer, seller, and agent understood about inspection. So you can go ahead and vent. You can talk about us realtors, all of that right now. Just what do you think we need to know?
Home maintenance.
That's it. That's a gem.
Home maintenance will save you money. Just because you have a house doesn't mean you don't have to do anything to it. Like you referred to a car, you got to get an oil change, you got to get your sparks plug done, all of that stuff. Your shoes get worn, what do? You buy new shoes. Your refrigerator's empty, you refill it, right? So it's just part of things that you have to do on a regular. Me personally, when it rains outside, I walk around my house, I look for any leaking gutters, I fix them when I can. I look for areas where water's pooling, I fix it when I can. So it's not something that you have to do right away, but it will cost you money if you ignore it.
I think people really do not grasp the concept that you have to maintain your home.
Yes.
That was something that I learned as a real estate agent, just even having a conversation with my husband because we had a leaking gutter. And I'm like, we need to get this fixed ASAP because it could turn into a real problem.
Mm.
It was pooling right next
You are
to the house.
triggering me right now.
Mhm.
Oh Lord. I'm like, we need to get this done. And he got up there and cleaned the gutters. And we didn't even need new gutters. They just needed to be
have a problem.
clean.
Right. Yeah.
Clean your gutters. If you don't take anything else away from this episode,
Clean your gutters.
Clean your gutters. It's costing me a lot of money right now because I did not clean my gutters.
Get your furnace serviced.
Yes.
It's recommended that you have your sewer line snaked once a year. Nobody does that. Homes need to be maintained.
And your furnace filter.
Yep.
Yes.
Change
I
your
need to
filter.
do better on mine.
I mean, you could get a filter where you change it every 3 to 6 months, depending on how much money you spend for that filter.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it every month, but my thermostat sends me an email or a text message say, "Hey, change your filter."
You're rich.
Not at all.
You better be mad. Okay. Any insider tips that people don't know about the inspection process?
You might save yourself a couple $100s by not getting an inspection, but you might spend thousands of dollars
Like I
later
did.
because you did not get that inspection. Insider tips. I usually try to pass out a home maintenance guide after my inspection if the client is present, and I recommend you read it. A lot of the times, if I do have a client call me after an inspection, I can send them a YouTube link for whatever the issue is. Here's the YouTube link. This is how simple it is. Research it. If you do have an issue, say, "Hey, this is what's going on," and you go on YouTube University, and they'll tell you what to do.
Yes, for
Right.
YouTube and University. So how can the people contact you if they want to get a home inspection? If they just own their home and they want to know
What's going on?
is a red flag going on in here right now?
So I could be contacted. I got a phone number, 248-820-4750. I have a website, imperativehomesolutions.com. That is imperativehomesolutions.
Don't find this works for me.
It's a long one, but use the phone number. I can send you all that information: email, text message, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everything.
What areas do you service?
I'm pretty much everywhere. I go to Flint, I go Trenton, pretty much everywhere.
So
I
across
do charge.
Michigan.
Yeah, I do charge depending on how far it is.
So somebody calls you from Florida, you'll go and do an
Across
inspection.
Michigan.
Michigan only.
Michigan.
Hey, we just
Florida
I don't know.
actually has different licensing laws.
Oh, okay. Anything else you want to tell the people? Anything you have new on the horizon? Anything new in your business or in your life?
Life is lifing, but as far as business goes, I'm still here. I'm still, working to improve things. I get new toys and new tools every day, which I love to use, especially my drone.
The drone is so much fun.
I have a crawl space robot, so I don't necessarily have to go in the crawl space anymore. And infrared imaging with all inspections. Infrared imaging saves a lot. It helps discover roof leaks. Like I said, we don't have X-ray vision, but we do have tools to help. That's pretty much it.
I like the fact that Tiffany is a student of the game. That's something I talk about with real estate agents. Educate yourself. Make sure you stay up to date on what's going on in your industry. And that's something that I appreciate about you and your business, that you none of us are perfect. Things are always changing. And to find someone in this industry and outside of this industry that actually take their profession seriously enough to where they want to do the research and they want to educate themselves, that's a blessing.
I think another thing that made Tiffany stand out was, I think it's like a warranty or something. Like, I actually looked at the folder. I know a lot of people don't read, but I actually took the time to read. And I think it was like something like, I don't know if it was an email or a video. It was like, if we don't find X, Y, and Z, we buy your house back.
Oh, that's the buyback guarantee. So yeah, every inspection comes with a 90-day buyback guarantee. The problem is nobody reads the report. So it's in the report.
Right.
But my association has so much faith in me and so much training in me that they back me. So if you decide after the inspection you move into the house within 90 days, you don't want it for any reason, they will buy the house back from you for the price that you paid, and you go ahead and find another property.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate your time, Tiffany. Like, we know time is money. So we really appreciate your time and you stopping by and having this conversation with us.
I appreciate you guys having me. I love it.
Thank you so much for coming. She came to see us right after her inspection, y'all. She out here getting money. Okay. All right.
I stay
But
working.
so call her. We will have her phone number listed, and then you always can contact us to get her contact information. But if you have any questions, be sure to leave comments and be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in.